Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me for the office hours. I know everybody in the room is probably at a variety of stages of the peer review process. I'm going to just take us through a really quick, maybe 5 or 6 slides, and then I'll open it up to any questions that you have. Just first is a reminder that we have a second office hours 1 week from today. It'll be at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. So if you have any questions between now and then, let Lisa know, but I'll be available again on Thursday the 27th at 11 a.m. And then with the final peer review scorecards due October 5th, which is very exciting and really right around the corner. A couple of things that I wanted to touch on today is just, the role that you as a peer review team are serving in the process, and the big important job that you all have is to make yourselves as a team the subject matter expert for your result area. So we know what the departments scored their services. It's listed on your score sheet, and it is really up to you all to go through and validate those scores with reference to your result area. So really just trying to be honest and consistent with that one result area. And we'll go into that a little bit more in a couple of slides, but just really wanted to kind of, knock that one home, that you all are now the experts for a result area. So I know you're in a variety of places as far as how many meetings you've had, but just reminding everybody that what you are tasked with doing is to determine if the department score makes sense. And the way that you can measure that in a couple of ways. First is, does the score reflect accurately its influence on the definitions associated with that result area? So does the service influence that result area? Is it essential to that result area? Does it not have any influence on that result area? Where does it fall in between those two extremes? And so just really using the definitions that have been provided for you to help determine that service's influence on achieving the result area. Just to kind of keep things in perspective of what you need to do to follow up. You need to follow up with a department if you don't understand what the service is or does. So that's really the only time that you would need to schedule time with a department director to go and follow up with them, is if you truly don't understand. Another time would be is if you think that they're just really off the mark, and you think that based on their comments that something was entered incorrectly, or it seems very inconsistent with their other scores throughout the scorecard. But otherwise, I think our best practice is to use the information in front of you to make your best determination of whether or not you agree with the score or you don't agree with the score. You follow up with the department if there's just something glaring. So, you all, again, I'm just going to reiterate, you all are the subject matter experts for that result area. So and the departments have gone through and spent the time entering comments, so use that information as well. But it is your responsibility to validate the score or to change the score. So if you agree with it, great, enter that score next to it. And if you recommend a change in the score, that's fine too. You have a lot of information in front of you and a good understanding of the result that you're responsible for. So if there is a change recommended, that's fine. Don't worry about that. These are going to go back through the super users and the leadership team to validate that part as well. So I don't want any hesitation. If you are being, true to the process and consistent with your understanding of your results area, a change in score is not going to make or break a service. As you are going through, just a couple of reminders. You have been provided with your result area and the associated definitions. So use that information in front of you. Don't try to bring in any outside influence or information. Use the service with its description and comments, and then use the results with the associated definitions. And that's really the information that is necessary. You don't need to look at other result areas. You don't need to look how a service scored in any other result area. You just need to focus on yours and determine the influence on that one result area for that one service. The services costs aren't a part of the process that you're going through right now. Just really looking to see the influence of that service on the result area that you're responsible for. And then this is just really, I know that this becomes a sensitive issue at some point where people either feel upset that they're going to have to change a score, or worried that they're going to damage a service in the overall quartile rankings. But these services, I have pulled together just a quick slide to demonstrate the number of scores that go into a final score determination. So this is just an example using your community or external results. So you'll see you have 9 results for both community and governance. This is just the community example. And 4 basic program attributes. All of these scores go into the determination of the final score. So just using an example, if my computer would catch up with me, using an example from one of your department scores, and I apologize, there it goes. So this is an example of a score from a random service that I pulled. These are actual scores. And you'll see the total program score has to do with the points assigned to each one of the result areas and to the BPAs. So you'll see the total program score for what is totaled up from the scores entered, the total possible score, and then what that becomes in our final score. So we take that total program score, normalize it out of 100 to determine that final score. So you'll see I'm going to make a couple of changes to the scores where 3 of them were lowered by one point, 1 of them was raised. What that does to the determination of the final score, sure, it takes it down a little bit, but you'll see the difference between a final score of 50.78 and 46.09. That would not result in a quartile shift. So the important part about having accurate scores on a service level is when you go back and as the leadership team is going back to evaluate, they're going to look at the individual scores, they're going to look at the final scores, and that's going to be a great way for them to help determine consistency across the organization. So the individual scores matter, but just as you are going through and recommending changes, just be aware your recommended change is a part of a big picture. And so just focus on your area and be true and consistent to your process, and the overall process will come together. Very quickly, I know most of you, I believe, are in your 2nd and 3rd meetings. I think we have a few groups who have completed their final scorecard. But just a reminder, as you get into those final meetings, this is the time where you really should have already contacted a department with significant concerns or questions about services and what they do, or a significant concern about a large discrepancy between scores. But this final meeting is to come to a consensus. And just a reminder, every single one of the cells needs to be filled in with a numeric value. And we'll take a look. I know you all are all familiar with this now, but we do need to have something in each one of the cells in order for our tools to upload it properly and determine the final scores accurately. Okay, so that's just kind of my spiel for reminding everybody of the process. Are there any specific questions that you all have come across as far as getting through peer review?
Everyone in City Hall is good. We don't have questions here.
Great. And just so you know, if anybody has dialed in, I muted everybody. So just to reduce disruption, but there should be a little microphone or a phone next to your name in the participant list. So if you are trying to ask a question from a remote location, you'll just need to unmute yourself.
Just a couple other things. So I think to make a couple comments. One was there was a slide on to ask questions, and it was when you don't fully understand the service, and there were a number of different bullets there. And I would just add to that, if the department didn't provide any comments, because we've seen some inconsistencies, departments put some very thorough comments in there as to why they scored themselves, how they scored themselves, and then others provide no comments whatsoever. So if you have if you didn't get any comments, then you should feel free to ask follow-up questions based on that.
I have a question on that. What do you think is a respectful amount of time for departments to get back to you? Asking for like 2 days, 3 days, like
that's the ballpark that I would I think because of the short time frame.
Right, that's what I'm concerned with. I don't want to ask a department a question before I've fully gotten through their stuff, so that I can ask all the questions at the same time. All their stuff, it's going to take at least 1 or 2 more meetings.
Right.
So I don't know, like, do department heads, this is a priority, and I'm assuming.
We can reiterate that.
Yeah.
If there's a wave of questions that start coming out from the review,
right,
that we can send a notice to everybody, just be on the alert that you're going to be questions, particularly where you didn't provide any comments, and that we can would appreciate a quick turnaround time.
Okay.
And then the other thing was, do we want to talk about where the focusing on the one particular result, with the example that when somebody didn't want to reduce the score in one result area because they thought it was overall important. So each of you all has a different basic program attribute or result that you're scoring on, and that is the entire focus of your review. I think we've had some experience in a couple of different places where, let's just give an example. Let's say the result area is flourishing arts and cultural, and the service is something related to public safety, and it didn't seem like the service was particularly related to flourishing arts and cultural, but there was a reluctance to lower the score because public safety is important, and so we don't want to downgrade them. I think that goes back to Liz's earlier point where there's 14 different scores that they're going to get, and they will do well in public safety. All you need to do is focus on your one particular result area, and don't worry about what the consequences of that for that overall service are. Because if it's a service that you think is important, it's probably a service that everybody thinks is important, and it'll do well in the areas that it's designed to do well. You should just score it based on the area that you're focused on, and not worry about, oh, well, I hate to ding this department or this service because I think it's important. I think that will take care of itself through the larger scoring process. Okay.
I just wanted to ask, well, and people online too, but people hear how everything's going. I know there are some people that have checked in with us, but just to make sure that there aren't any questions or strategies, or if there's something that worked well with your group that you'd like to share with everybody else, particularly if you found a mechanism that really helped sift through the data and work through your meeting efficiently.
So I can tell you, we added different categories, and each one of us individually scored. And then when we came back together, we looked at where the discrepancies were in our scoring and then talked about those and focused on those. And that seemed to work really well and cut down on a lot of time.
Right.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
I mean, I'll hang out here for a few minutes if anybody has any individual questions they want to ask offline. And if everybody online has no questions, thank you for attending online. Appreciate it. And we'll be here next week. If you need anything in the meantime, feel free to contact me if you have any questions. Thanks.
Thank you all. I appreciate all the hard work everyone's putting into this.
Thanks, Liz.
Thanks, Liz.